Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/IDontWorkHereLady. Let's start with a little but great warming up story. Don't hold a meeting in the soda aisle. I live in an upper middle-class suburb of New York City. Some of the people in my town are a bit entitled. Anyway, on to the story. When I work from home, I dress very casually, basically sweats, and I don't bother shaving. I find weekdays to go shopping to be the best as the store's not too crowded. I wanted to get some diet soda for the weekend, and a well-dressed, late 20s, early 30s man was on his phone, standing in front of the soda I wanted. I said, "Excuse me," and he rolled his eyes and said, "Just because I'm wearing a suit and talking business on the phone doesn't mean I work here." I replied, "I just need to get what you're blocking." He huffed and mumbled something about lazy people who don't have a job to whoever he was speaking to and moved over. Now, if that was the end of the story, I wouldn't have bothered posting. But of course it's not. I heard him mention a type of case in our local state courthouse, next town over is the county seat, in the same practice area my wife and I practiced in when we were practicing law. I closed her firm when she passed. It just wasn't the same. Our county is small enough so that if you're practicing for a few years, you know most of the lawyers and judges in your area of law. Still a little annoyed from our interaction, I decided to play a bluff. I asked, "Are you talking about type of case in front of Judge X?" Startled, he replied, "Why do you want to know?" My response? "It sounds like the case my wife and I are opposing counsel on in front of Judge X in courtroom 123 next week." Dude turned very white very fast. He was indeed talking about a case that was going to be in front of Judge X next week. Fortunately for him, I remembered our case was the following week to let him know that he hadn't just royally messed up, followed with a suggestion he may not want to have those types of conversations where he can be overheard. Moral of the story, don't have a confidential conversation in public and don't underestimate some slob dressed in sweats. Don't make assumptions about me based on my appearance. Proceeds to make assumptions about you based on your appearance. And our next story. Lady doesn't believe females are in the trucking industry. Yada yada, first post, long-time lurker, blah blah blah. Insert backstory. So my dad used to drive trucks for a living. When I got older, I eventually went on trips with him and usually ended up getting a company shirt to wear to really get in the spirit. I also was curious as to how the job worked in case I couldn't find anything I wanted to do in life. It's always a good backup option. I was considered their part-time employee, seeing as I was around 16 at the time it happened. I'm almost 20 now. So our tale begins after a long night of trucking. Usually after a long night, my dad will stop at a truck stop outside our city to fuel up before going into town to drop the truck off and go home. Normally in my area, truck drivers have to shut down to prohibit going over schedule. After 10 hours, the driver must shut down and can't resume until the next shift. So you can see why they force the break. This truck stop has two sides, one for truckers and one for regular vehicles. I really needed to let loose the demon because my small bladder can't hold anything for more than an hour usually, and I held it for 6 hours. I did my business, washed my hands, and left to go look at some pocket knives. It's a staple of the trips. New knife each time. Of course, it has to be legal, though. I'm dead-ass tired looking at knives like a stoner and looking at what snack to get when I get a tap on the shoulder. Now, the aisles are smallish, so I just presumed the person wanted through and scooted forward a bit. Apparently, that was the wrong choice. The person then tapped my shoulder again, and I turned around. "Finally, an employee. Get me 3 corn dogs and a small fries, please." I was confused. Who the hell buys truck stop food nowadays? "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't actually work here." This apparently was her breaking point because before I knew it, I was being screamed at by some crusty-looking woman who looked like she got smacked with a frying pan repeatedly. I pointed to my shirt where it clearly showed the logo of the company in big, bold letters. To mine and anyone else in the store's dismay, she didn't care. "What a load of bullcrap! Women don't drive trucks, that's a man's job." I don't know where this lady's been, but she's clearly out of tune because I've never gone to a dock and not seen a woman driver or warehouse employee. "Ma'am, look, I'm sorry, but I don't work here. I'm just passing through." Still yelling, I proceeded to just walk away. The break was almost up and we'd have to be heading out soon. "Don't you dare leave! You're going to get me my food right now." She kept following me until I got to my dad on the other side of the store paying for gas, still screaming somehow. How the hell anyone screaming that loud at 3 a.m. is beyond me. She sees the clerk and decides this is her chance to get sympathy or whatever. "You have some nerve. Your employees are cruel. I asked for food and this trash just walked away from me." It was then that my dad pointed to the company logo on my shirt, then pointed to his shirt, the exact same shirt I was wearing, then pointed to the big truck just outside with the same logo. It finally clicks with her. "Oh, I see. I was pissed beyond belief. I'm tired. I still have at least 2 hours before I can go home, and this lady did not help. My dad was tired, and he didn't want to deal with the screaming lady. "I don't know who the F you are, lady, but maybe you should check who the F you're talking to before you scream at them, especially at this time of the morning." She left. I don't even think she got her food, and I ended up getting a brand new knife and about 10 hours of sleep after I got home. And our next story. How I ended up with my boss's job. I was working for an advertising agency, a pretty big one. I had an unethical manager. Well, when I started out, I had a manager who was one of the most unethical managers I've ever dealt with. He'd order his sales reps to do things that would increase his bonuses, which are based on margins. Example, say a client decided to buy product XYZ and their spend was $2,000 a month. He would want the agent to put up products ABC and keep the spend at $2,000, even though the client didn't agree to that fact. Fact is, the clients generally wouldn't notice, but if they did, it could cost you your job. I was the guy that refused his demands. He would tell me to cheat the client and I would refuse. He'd get mad, I wouldn't care. This went on for quite a while. Now there's something I don't tell people very often. I live in a one-party consent state, which means so long as I'm aware a conversation is being recorded, I can record it without informing the other party. I just upsold my largest client, making him even larger, but I didn't sell him the products my boss wanted me to sell. He demanded I switch things around. I refused. I told him I sold the client XYZ. That's what we'd agreed to. I'm not going to change that without the customer's permission. His exact words were, "F the customer. This is your largest client. I need him on ABC or I'm not going to make my number." I'm sorry, but you and I both know ABC isn't right for the client, and that's why he didn't buy it. "You're fired if you can't follow instructions. You're fired." After confirming he was dead serious, I said, "If you do that, I'll have your job by the end of the month." I went home. I didn't think he'd actually go through with it, but sure as crap, next morning, I'm locked out of all systems. I call tech support and get told I've been fired. So who do I call? I call our regional vice president and tell him I have several recordings I think he should listen to. Remember, my boss ordering me to do unethical things wasn't uncommon, so I meet up with my RVP and play 6 different recordings that I had saved showing my manager was pushing his agents to break the law. To which my RVP leaned back in his chair and let out a sigh, knowing he had to fire my manager. Having a sales manager that's forcing his reps to break the law is just bad business, at which point I asked for my job back. He agreed that I would get my job back and asked me to take the week off and call him on Monday. He told me he'd talk to payroll and make sure I got paid for this week as well. FYI, he fulfilled all his promises with me, although I missed a payday but got back pay later, so I was fine with that. That Monday, I come into our Monday morning meeting in which my RVP was there. He informed the entire team that my boss had been fired and why. He also mentioned that if anyone wanted to apply for his job, there was now an opening. So I applied for, and after 3 rounds of interviews, got my promotion. Sure as crap, I was right. I did have my boss's job by the end of the month. It was glorious the first day walking into his office and sitting in his nice, big, comfy chair. And our next story. I eat breakfast at McDonald's. Happened perhaps 15 minutes ago. For context, I'm South Indian and currently live in a mid-sized German town. I woke up a bit earlier than usual, so I figured I'd stop at the McDonald's for some breakfast. I get my food and I'm sitting at one of the tables by the entrance. It's pretty early, so I'm the only customer in the restaurant. I also have my headphones in watching a YouTube video on my iPad. Someone interrupts with a "Good morning." That was odd, seeing as I'm in Germany. Why not Guten Morgen? It's this older woman, perhaps 50, with an open beer bottle in her hand. Not that that's too unusual over here, apart from maybe the time of day, and tells me there's no one at the counter to serve her. When I inform her in German that I didn't work there, she refused to believe me. "But you're Indian." "So?" I asked. "Indians all have crap jobs," she replied. Then she started to raise her voice, ranting that since I didn't work at McDonald's, it followed I didn't work anywhere, and that immigrants were ruining Germany, and how the AfD, far-right party, had the right idea. She wasn't done yet. She saw fit to spit in my tray and told me to lick it. By then, a manager had come over, so she'd heard the rant and witnessed the spitting. She asked if I wanted to call the police. I did, but I also have a job to get to, so I declined. I'm a teacher, and there are exams today, and I'd promised a revision class, so if I didn't make it in or was delayed, the students would be screwed. I'm not sure how it ended. The manager evicted herself. I'm not sure. She replaced my whole meal gratis, which was nice because I'd pretty much finished. Guess I have some snacks for the day. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.